Get this game out of my life. Yes! Yes, we did it. That's good enough for me. Credits, baby. Oh, God, I thought we were never going to get there. I really did a couple of times. I really did. Alright, first things first. The bottom center of the screen says that we've beaten 20 games in 2024. And 467 since we started doing this in 2020. Those need to be updated. We've now beaten 21 games in 2024 and 468 games since we started doing this in 2020. Poggers. All right. Let me try and rein it in a little bit because I don't want to be overly harsh to this on this game, but I did not like it. So let's talk about why. Let's talk about the good things first. The art style is gorgeous. It has some problems with it. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the art style is really cool. It's very reminiscent of like the 1970s, like European cartoons, like Fantastic Planet, I believe is what it's called, is what it reminded me of the most. Also, kind of like that 90s neon look, like all real monsters or something. You know, it was very, very colorful. Very vibrant, very cool. It was a problem at times because it's so busy that it's hard to tell what's in the foreground and what's in the background, what you can interact with and what you can't. And it added to... It was one of the 10 things about this game that made it very confusing. So it was chaotic and it really got in the way, but it was beautiful. What else about this game is good? Nothing. That's the only thing about this game that's good, in my opinion. I can't think of anything else about this game that's good. I guess let's start with the fundamentals. The combat is exceedingly basic and very simple. And oh no, you know what? Let's hold on. There was one other thing that I thought was really cool. This game. I wouldn't consider this a spoiler. It works on a loop system, like a time. It has this is a time loop game. So you think like Deathloop, Returnal, Outer Wilds, games like that have a time loop. This is like that, but it's not a roguelike. It doesn't work like that, like those other games do, where everything starts over. It doesn't start over when you die. I didn't die in this game. It's way too easy. We'll get to that in a second. But it starts over when you beat a certain boss or a certain area. And the skill tree resets, which I thought was kind of interesting. So you can rebuy skill sets, and there are items that you can find in the game that will help you lock in skills permanently. That was a cool system. I liked that. That was interesting. Okay, there we go. So it was an interesting way, in a nutshell, it was an interesting way to tackle the time loop idea without being a roguelike. I mean, hell, who knows? Maybe it had some more roguelike stuff, but we never found out because we didn't die. Okay, so back to the garbage parts. So it was very busy, it's very chaotic. The combat was not very good. It was very basic. It was really clunky, very janky, messed up, didn't work a lot of the time. The hitboxes were all over the place. I'm pausing just to make sure there's no spoilers or anything on this because I don't want to have to edit it out. Are we good? This is just back to the title screen. Okay, just making sure. That's exactly what the original title screen looked like. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to do something else. All right, and so the combat was bad. The game is way too simple and easy. I am not that good of a gamer, and I never once came close to dying in this game. At no point was I in any actual danger. The game is ridiculously easy. Way, way too easy. And I don't remember there being a difficulty setting. There's no difficulty setting. I don't want to. I shouldn't have checked, but I should check here. There's no You can turn up damage reduction and stuff, so you can make it easier. But there's no difficulty settings in this game. And it was an absolute breeze. I could probably count on my hands how many times I got below 50% health. The game is easy. It's easy. Way too easy. So easy that it's not even... it's trivial. There are no stakes. The bosses were all bad. They were all... It was a combination of being far too easy when it comes to the actual combat, but also not knowing how to kill the bosses. Like, it wasn't clear what weak spots or what areas you could hit, how you could get to them. So some of the bosses took a minute, but not because they were hard, just because I was trying to figure out how I could do damage. So that was bad. The story... I don't know. I guess I won't say it was bad. I don't know what the hell it was. Half of the words they use in this game aren't real words. They're just made up things. And there was some broad story, it seemed like, maybe. But honestly, I had no idea what the hell was going on at any time. The game doesn't really make any... It's like it's trying to do one of those sorts, like, oh, it's more about the vibe and the imagery than it is about the brass tacks. That's fine, and I like a lot of games and movies that are like that, but, like, you have to actually have, like, cool vibe, like a cool idea, you know? and the look of it is cool, but the story is... They might as well have been... The game might as well have been in Spanish. I don't know a word of Spanish. I would have enjoyed this game just as much if it were in Spanish. I had no idea what was going on. I read some of the lore. There wasn't really lore to read, but you could click on things and a short cutscene would play, and it would be complete fucking nonsense. And so, I would have gotten through this game exactly at the same pace if it had just been in Spanish the whole time. And that extends to the items and stuff, too. Like, you read about the items, it's just like, oh, the Shamasal brought this from the Edgemadog. And it's like, okay, what does the item do when I use it? And it just doesn't tell you most of the time. There are a couple of exceptions, but for the most, it just doesn't tell you. I honestly think I could have gotten through this game just as easily if it were in French. So the story is just... it's not even bonkers. That would be giving it too much credit. It's just like if I read you a big long word that didn't exist, and I'd say, "Hey, do you think that's cool?" You'd be like, "Well, no, I don't." You don't hate it, do you? No, I don't hate it. I don't know what the fuck it is. There's nothing to hate. There's nothing to hate or enjoy when it comes to the story, in my opinion. There is probably some fan of this game somewhere that's written down what the lore means, and good for them. But to me, it was so vague that it didn't matter to me. It did not impact me at all. And I had no desire to learn more about it because the other parts of the game weren't good enough to propel it. So I didn't care about the story at all. What else? Oh, the mechanics in this game are broken. I got stuck multiple times. Not multiple times. I got stuck constantly. Like, on average, I'd say every 15 or 20 minutes, I'd get to a point in a room and it's like, what do I do in here? I can't jump high enough to get up there, and I don't know enough. My abilities don't seem to get me up there. And so one of two things would happen. I would either just fuck around until I figured it out, and figuring it out a lot of the time, honestly, probably 50% of the time, it felt like I wasn't actually doing what I was supposed to do. I had a way that I could cheese jumping, where after a double jump, you can do this kick that propels you further. Most of the traversal stuff like that, I got by, I think, doing what I wasn't supposed to do. If I was supposed to do it that way, it didn't feel that way. It wasn't intuitive at all. The way that you there's this mechanic in this game where you have to plant like plants to get through certain traversal things. Like, you plant a thing and then it grows up and then you can jump on it and get to a higher area. But the game does very little to explain what tree does what, plant does what. They're all given nonsense names like Mushishi, Yod Yog, And they all look exactly the same except for the color, and I'm colorblind, so I couldn't tell the difference between the seeds for the whole game. It was just luck. And sometimes, even worse than that, sometimes, and this happened to me, you can plant a seed, and if you plant the wrong one, you just can't get through that part of the game if you plant the wrong seed. You can plant something that becomes an obstacle later on because you come back later in a different loop and it's grown larger. And you just have to, if you do that, you just have to reload. The game keeps a save file at the beginning of every loop, so you just gotta go back and replay the loop. I guess the game is designed that way. It doesn't seem, it would be such an oversight that, I don't know, man. This game is so broken, it totally could be an oversight. But, like, maybe the game is just designed where, yeah, you're supposed to replay the loop, but the game never tells you that. There's never any indication that that's a design part of the game. I just lost an hour of progress, an hour and a half, because I planted the wrong tree. I don't know what I'm doing. The game doesn't explain anything. None of it is intuitive at all. You're just guessing the whole game. How to get to different areas and do different abilities and stuff. None of them worked consistently well. There's one that you can fly around with. The rules are just all over there are no clear rules. It's like you're plodding through something, and half the time when you get to where you want to go, you don't even know if that's what you're supposed to do or if you broke the game to get there. It's just horrible. It reminds me a lot of The Last Case of Benedict Fox, which is one of my lowest games ranked of all time and my lowest Metroidvania of all time. It had a very similar issue where it was like, just wasn't intuitive at all. It didn't explain anything. And if you did something and you got to a part, it might have been just because you broke the game and you cheesed it. This game, I think, might be worse than that game because it does that. It's all the time. I had to look up walkthrough, 10 times probably on this game. Well, maybe not that much, 6 or 7 times. And almost every time I did, I ended up figuring it out in a way that wasn't one on the walkthrough. And it's very clearly not designed to be like that. There's just garbage everywhere in this game, and none of it's explained, none of it's intuitive, none of it works as designed. It's all clunky as hell. It's all like you're clipping through walls, basically, to get through the game. It's like, I felt like I just clipped through this game. Even though I don't know how to do any of that crap. What else? I think that's the main stuff. I mean, the game was way too easy. The game was broken to the point where I was having I had to reload a couple of times. The game would just freeze, and I'd have to restart from a previous save, lose a few minutes of progress. That wasn't that big of a deal, but I mean, the game freezing isn't great. This is an objectively bad game. There are a couple of things about it that make it look cool, like the art style, and the idea of the loop is cool, that's trendy. But at every level of execution, this game fails. It's just real bad. It's just a really bad game. It's one of the I think it's one of the worst games I've ever played. I quit on it once. When I realized I was going to have to go back and start a part of the game over, I was like, this game isn't good enough to do that. I quit. And I walked away from it, and then I started playing something else, and then I had a separate, totally different problem with that game, and I decided to come back to this because I'd already gotten 2/3 of the way through the game, and I didn't want that to be for nothing. That's the only reason I finished this game, just so I could rank it. There's sometimes when a game is so bad, I want to get through it because I don't allow myself to review games that I haven't beaten. So if I'm gonna dunk on a game, I have to beat it first. That was what was really driving me with this game. I want to get through this game so I can bury it. I hated this game. Maybe for a total of about a half hour collectively in the first and maybe second recordings of this game, I may have had a few minutes of fun here and there. But for the vast majority of the game, including the whole final 75%, it was just a slog all the way through. I didn't enjoy any of it. I just didn't enjoy this game at all. It was not fun. I wouldn't recommend you even start playing this game unless somebody gives you at least $20. Even then, it's probably not worth... You ought to be making $20 an hour to play this game. I just hate it. I just didn't like it at all. It is the worst combination of easy and hard. Alright, I'll shut up because this is probably some independent game from like a single developer or a small team, and I don't want to dunk on those people too hard because they've done a lot more in the games industry than I have, but I did not enjoy this game. I at no point was I really having fun, and I think that it's just poorly executed from start to finish. Alright, that's it. Ultros, last order of business. We're now going to delete you from our console and never play you again. Good riddance. Please get out of my life.